Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lundgren.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Yes, hello, and a very, very warm welcome to this Rangers Journal pod. We are talking about the end of 2025, which is quite apt as it is Hogmanay. So we thought, out with the old, in with the new, and we'll look ahead to, we'll talk about the St Mirren game, we'll look ahead to the Old Firm game coming up in the next few days, which actually feels a little strange being on the 3rd, but I guess that's just the way the days have fallen. But to join us to talk about the great 3 points over St Mirren and look ahead to the Old Firm, first of all, Ryan, how you doing, mate? You in the Blue Room?
I'm in the Penny Arcade, mate. I'm here, ready to go.
Good stuff. Good to see. And I'm starting early. I'm on the Julian Speroni, if you know what I mean. If you're good to be a Cockney Ryan, if you're good to be a Cockney Ryman slang, I can't even say it. But there we go. This will be interesting by the time I get to the end of the pod. I'm a bit of a lightweight, but yeah, good to have you on, Ryan. And last but not least, the man, the myth, the legend. It's Craig. How you doing, my friend?
Very good, Andrew. Thanks. Good to see you both, guys. And not started yet, but I won't be long behind you.
Yeah, I've got to space it out. I'll be dead by 8 o'clock if I really go for it tonight. I'm in the mood for it tonight, but I'm much happier lately, and it's amazing. I'm a bit like, I've described it before as, E.T. and the sunflower. If the sunflower's wilting, E.T.'s not well. It's like Rangers. When Rangers are doing better, I'm doing better. I think we can all say that as well. And welcome to everyone in the comments. We got Connect for Frenchmen. Happy New Year, guys. Yes, Happy New Year to you too when it does come round. And before we get into it, if you look at the bottom right hand corner, we are proudly sponsored by Bluebells. That's Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen in glorious Lanzarote. So if you're over in Lanzarote, you'll find the warmest of welcomes at the only Rangers bar in Puerto del Carmen. Family friendly, eat, drink, chill or party. You can do all if you are really up to it, and you can watch the Rangers games there as well. Every Rangers game is live, and can you imagine watching the game on the 3rd there? That'd be absolutely brilliant, wouldn't it? That'd be fantastic. So it's nothing better than sitting overlooking the ocean with a beer or a cocktail on their sun-kissed balcony, or grabbing a wee bit of shade if it is too hot. So if you are in Lanzarote, do pop in and say hi. And don't forget, the Rangers Journal does have an Etsy store, so we do have a range of our own clothes. There is the web address at the bottom. If you're on Etsy, just type in the Rangers Journal, all one word, and you will find some of the fantastic goods there as well. So 3 points over St Mirren yesterday. I was on the pod on Monday. I'm trying to remember what day is which now, where we were kind of discussing it. We were looking ahead to it. I was on with yourself, Ryan. And actually, I think some of the predictions were pretty close, I think. I went 2-0. I think you went, was it 3-1 you went, Ryan? I can't remember.
I went 2-0 as well, mate.
You went 2-0 as well, yeah. It did feel like it was going to be a 2-0 game. And it kind of did feel like a 2-0 game, really. We could have had a couple more if we took our chances. But you're pleased with that? It was a good game overall, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, entertainment, which is something we've been a wee bit starved of at Ibrox this season, being honest. So it's just great to see Rangers playing well, to be honest. And I think, obviously, we've seen the starting lineup. It's a couple of notable absences, like a wee bit of rotation and stuff. A wee bit kind of nervous about it when it started. It wouldn't have certainly been the team I would have picked, but you do have to trust the manager and let him do his thing, let him pick his team. And obviously, there's a massive one coming up on Saturday that he probably had his eye on. But it felt like what Rangers should be like, if that makes sense. I didn't feel angry at my players. I wasn't shouting at the manager. I wasn't screaming at the referee. I just felt as if things are starting to get back to the way they should be for us.
And that's it, isn't it, Craig? It's back in the day, used to kind of welcome a little bit of rotation, but we've just felt so scared in a sense to kind of do it because every point is a prisoner at the minute. But it was quite nice to have a little bit of rotation and actually be fairly comfortable. Is this giving the manager a little bit of a headache coming into the weekend?
I don't think it's given him a headache. I think he'll know what his team is. And I think the likelihood is players like, for example, Connor Barron, who was given a little bit of a run out last night, will probably be among the first names on the team sheet for the game. I like the idea of a manager who's confident enough in himself and his ability to get a tune out of players that he can actually put players that maybe the fans aren't quite seeing, but actually you know, he sees them in training every day and thinks actually there's a player there. You just need a bit of confidence. And the only way they can get that confidence is to play. And we're seeing it now, probably with Fernandez. We're seeing it with Asgard. And there might even be another player who I'm sure we'll come onto in somewhat more depth later on, who again is benefiting from that approach. Because if you let them rot in the reserves, they're gone, you know, or, well, not the reserves because we don't have reserves anymore, showing my age, but you know what I mean. And yeah, so no, I like the approach he's taken there. Obviously, you're taking a risk if it doesn't pay off because it's very easy with hindsight to say it was the wrong decision, but it worked last night and fair play to him.
Yeah, and fair play indeed. It was the one thing that really struck me, Ryan, kind of early on in the game. Ryan's disappeared. Maybe he's had a little bit of a dropout. But the one thing, Craig, that struck me last night was watching that game in that first kind of half an hour, we looked so comfortable. And actually, St Mirren, I thought were going to come at us a little bit more. Now, my kind of prediction was that originally was St Mirren will sit deep. They'll kind of try and soak up the pressure. Then when the second half comes along, they'll kind of bring on some subs. They'll kind of strengthen then, and they'll probably look to get us when we're a bit tired. I know that kind of maybe a little bit went to plan for them a little, but I was just so surprised that they really didn't have much of the ball at all in that first half, did they, Craig? It was all Rangers.
No, and I think we took that chance that rather than play someone like Barron, who is better at winning the ball back when we're out of possession, we played players who seem to thrive with having the ball themselves. And it could go both ways again, that sort of thing. But I think it worked. And I think with Asgard and with Mikey Moore buzzing and probing, it gave them a lot to think about in the first half and maybe tied up a lot of their guys who probably could have been coming forward, but actually had a little bit more of a headache than other teams have had against us this season. And, you know, in matches where I think teams have find it very easy to settle against us and reset when they've lost the ball. I think we're getting it forward quicker. I think the Magoma on the wing as well looked very, very good last night. Gassama had a better game. There's a lot to be, let's say, optimistic about, but I think cautiously optimistic because we've seen this film before. But certainly I feel better about it myself.
I do agree, Craig. Cautiously optimistic is definitely the word because we've all been hurt before, and it's always the way with us, isn't it? And we've learnt not to get hurt, so I don't blame you there. I don't blame you. Craig was mentioning there, Ryan, about Asgard. Obviously, that's Asgard's. That's 2 goals in 2 games for him. His 3rd of the season. Is he starting to look a little bit more comfortable now, a little bit more confident in his play, or do you still think there's quite a bit of work to be done there for Asgard?
Definitely room for improvement still. There's definitely still looking for another gear out of him, if not 2. Still seems to not create enough from outside. Obviously, he's scored the last couple of goals. His goal in particular last night was a great goal, it was a great finish from the head. The one against Motherwell was good, but it was obviously read the shot for the save and the rebound and stuff, and he was there in the right place in the right time. But there's still not enough creativity from outside of the box for the man who we would like to think is our number 10. But I think he needs time. But I think that the fruits, or he's starting to kind of show these wee moments, if you like, that probably suggest that there is a player in there that we do need to give him time, and we need to be a little bit patient with him. He is still just a young guy. He's 23 years of age, and although he does have the stature of a man, you look in his face and he's still such a young boy. So we do need to be patient with him and let him find his feet. He's obviously came to a massive club. He's never played with a club like this size, so there will be a wee bit of a culture shock in that respect, and the expectations and the demands of playing for Rangers. So we need to surround him with people and give him if things aren't going well for him, that we can take him out and protect him, so that there is an opportunity to bring him back in when things are going to start going well for him again. There is no point in playing him and let him become the boo boy that we always seem to have a boo boy at Ibrox, and we need to protect our players and make sure that doesn't come in. We need to have adequate resources on the bench within the squad to be able to take them out if they need to be.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And actually, that kind of gives me a little segue into the next player I'm going to talk about, Craig, Mohamed Diamande. Obviously, Mohamed Diamande has started. I think he started every Old Firm in the past couple of seasons. I think he's been quite fit. it's a bit of a dilemma now, isn't there? As John Adams says here, he can't start. He's an empty jersey. We need to get rid of in January. Do you start Mohamed Diamande at Parkhead? Is that what you do, or do you look at something a little bit different?
He certainly splits opinion, and I can see why he does, because there are people out there that still think there's a player in there, and he has showed in flashes during his Ibrox career that he can actually play football. You know, a couple of European games and what have you, and it's just that switching off now and again, and also, you know, as whoever it was just made the comment, I can't really see on the phone particularly, but it's that empty jersey feel, because he does give that impression sometimes that he's just not on it, not interested. But I don't really see who potentially is the guy that's chipping away at him for his shirt at the moment. And I think that's maybe where the problem is. I mean, I think Barron has to start on Saturday. But I suspect we'll probably see a three of Barron, Raskin and Diamande. I think he'll stick with what he sees as a safer option. Could be completely wrong, and I've got no insight into that. But it just strikes me that probably will be the three. I don't know if Ryan knows of has a player in mind that he thinks would walk into that position, but certainly that's the way I would look at it myself.
Yeah, do you know what? I think that kind of looks the way, I think, for that. But yeah, we'll come on to that a little bit more. I just thought I'll mention Diamande at the minute, just because obviously he started again last night. He starts all the old firms generally. Is it time for a little bit of change? But yeah, we'll definitely look into that. But one guy last night that I think surprised a lot of people, somebody that has had obviously some fair criticism and probably justified criticism coming up over the past few games. Yusuf Chamiti, Ryan. A few people have commented over the past couple of games. Some of his off the ball play and some of his passing was good. It just seemed to click a little bit better last night, didn't it? And we're starting to see another side to Chamiti now as maybe a bit more of an all-round player rather than striker.
Can't fault his effort last night, particularly after the first quarter of the game was over. A couple of instances in the first quarter, I thought he could have been running a bit more. I thought there was an opportunity to cross the ball into the box a few times, and he was kind of hanging about the edge of the D, where I thought he could have been maybe stretching their bike line and looking for crosses and stuff. The guy played his best game in the Rangers jersey last night, and there was instances last night when he's getting the ball down, he's bringing people into play, and the crowd raised for him, and it was great to see that. You know, people were actually clapping him and getting there, and then, you know, he played the ball in and tries to make a run behind, and people are shouting for him to get the ball back, and times going by, you'd be like, you know, he's going to bounce off his knee, he's going to come off his chest, the midfielder's going to get in front of him, take the ball off him, and he just seems to, and I've said that right from the start when he came in, that there's a blueprint there of a great football player. His height, his stature, you know, he's got everything physically that you need to get a big striker. You just need to put the football brain into him. And you know, I said that if you get a couple of really good coaches around him, I need Duncan Ferguson and Jermaine Defoe's two examples, that somebody who's big and strong, who knew how to use his body at the top level, and somebody who was a fantastic finisher. But the coaches are obviously doing their job with him. Obviously, things are starting to work. He got a round of applause when he went off the park last night. I felt fan, and that will do that young boy no end of good. You know, something else comes up in Saturday. If he comes up and nips the winner Saturday, it's just the start. And how many times, excuse me, how many times have we said after a few months of players signing for us, welcome to Rangers? You know, and that Saturday might be that moment for Chamiti where he just stands up and we all say, welcome to Rangers. And I hope it does.
Oh, could you imagine, Craig? That would be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Right.
That would be a definite. It was a bit like Paul Gascoigne in a sense. I know not to compare the completely different players, but when Gascoigne came to Rangers, it was a bit different. There was so much hype. He had achieved a lot in football, and it took him to the Old Firm game to really get going. But when he got going, oh my goodness! I remember it was at Parkhead, wasn't it? He scored, and he never looked back from then, did he? Because there was not exactly people moaning about him, but there was people going, oh, he's not quite hit the heights that they were expecting, and boom, that Old Firm game, he was like, hello. But so we could do with the Paul Gascoigne now, couldn't we? My goodness. But yeah, no, it was good to see though, Craig, wasn't it? The crowd, you know, nobody wants to see a player come and do badly, especially when they've cost 8 million. We want all our players to do well, and that'll do the lad no world of good, wouldn't it? No, that'll do the lad a world of good. Even see, I've had a sip of beer. You can tell, can't you?
Yeah, no, I don't think it happened by accident either. The fact that he was substituted with a minute to go or a couple of minutes to go last night, I think the manager wanted him to get that ovation. I think that they knew it was likely that the crowd would rise and give him that encouragement. And he's a big lad anyway, and he's a tall lad. He probably doesn't need to grow a few more inches, but I think he probably did last night when he came off. And I think that's so important. We sometimes forget, and I think we commoditize these young lads, because they are just young lads. They live in different countries, and they take a lot of stick if they're not performing. And the problem is, I understand fan frustration, and we all do it, but it never makes them better. Do you know what I mean? And it's trying to get that balance. But if they can just get that break, as you talked about Gaza and what have you, then maybe if the crowd get behind them, and I think he's bought himself a bit of time now. I don't think his next pass that goes wrong will get the same amount of groans that it used to get and stuff. And maybe he's got a little bit in there, and people will think, you know what? Yeah, let's get behind him. I'd like to see him get a goal or two, because at the end of the day, that's what he's going to be judged on. But his all-round play last night was great. And I think probably, if you're going to make any comparisons, a young Peter Crouch, who I know people kind of laughed at because he was lanky and what have you, but he's a very, very effective centre-forward in his day. And if we got somebody along those lines, because he's kind of languid, he's not... you mentioned Duncan, Brian. Duncan was just a beast, basically, a monster. And I think any centre-half that was facing Duncan Ferguson would have been just not sleeping the night before because of what was coming his way. He seems to be quite subtle, and he seems to have a pass in him. He seems to be able to make those runs now. And maybe they're working really, really hard with him in training. Maybe they're actually giving him that confidence and giving him that understanding that actually you can be good, son. And if you are good, listen to what they did last night. They'll keep doing that, and they'll give you more. Great incentive for him.
Fantastic incentive for him indeed. And actually, Shona's put here, hope you're doing well, Shona. If you look at the stats between Chemiti and Majowski, he's actually miles better than Bojan. Bojan's are currently our lowest rated player. Wow. Sometimes... the eye test isn't always there, is it? Sometimes you've got to look at the best stats, haven't you, Ryan? Majowski definitely isn't the player that he was when he was at Aberdeen. I think, was it Girona he was at last season? Really didn't hit the heights there, and we all hoped we'd kind of get that player back. Do you think we can get something out of Majowski? Do you think that the little injury he had is just kind of setting back a few weeks? Because he did hit a little bit of form, didn't he, just before that injury, as always with Rangers players?
Yeah, it's just a couple of scrappy striker-esque goals. I think there's a couple down at Rugby Park in particular that spring to mind straight off the bat. It's maybe just not working out for him. And it's one of the, he came here with a level that of pedigree that we thought from his time at Aberdeen, but he's went to Girona, and like you said, he's not done anything in La Liga. And what damage that's done to his confidence. Aberdeen obviously play a massively different system from what we play as well. So... but I think when I watch him live and I see him there, he is making runs and he is asking, trying to play on the shoulder and looking for balls in behind. And we would rather play the ball 5-10 yards rather than play the ball 40 yards. And whether that's, manager's instructions or something, but I just don't think the style that we're playing suits him. Had we got him directly from Aberdeen and they hadn't went to Spain, I don't think Rangers would have paid the money that Girona paid for him. Especially at Aberdeen, because you're obviously filling the pockets of one of your biggest rivals as well, so you don't really want to be doing that if you can avoid it. So it's just one of these ones that just might not end up working out. And I think strikers, the department I would like to see is strengthened the most in. You're probably going to Danilo at some point. Everyone knows my thoughts on Danilo. It's a waste of a jersey, it's the waste of a wage. So strikers, where we need to start getting the quality, if you like. Because Chemiti, as much as you're saying his overall play is great, I don't think he had a shot on target last night. I don't think he actually tested the goalkeeper at any point. And we need a number 9 striker to be scoring goals, because when nobody else is scoring goals, we need to look towards him to do it. And whether we get somebody in that's going to complement him to do that, and he then sort of drops back into this kind of number 10 position, which people started talking about over the last year or so, maybe. But we need goals. Goals will win you games. Games will win you leagues. trophies. And if we don't score goals, we're not going to win anything.
Yeah, no, true. Very true. I think there's been a lot of chat about the kind of Joe Linton path, and I think that's what people are looking at with Chimiti at the minute. But I guess it is still early days. Hopefully, he's doing a bit more on the training ground with his striking, because hopefully he can do something, because obviously our second goal last night, a great ball in from Chimiti, might I add, but a great goal from Fernandez, Craig. Fernandez is starting to become probably our top goal scorer. I think I haven't looked at the goal scorer stats, but he's definitely must be creeping up there. He must be top 3, probably, with Tav probably at the top, I imagine.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm a great believer in the first thing you need to be able to do as a defender is defend, but we'll take the goals. And, you know, just like, as you say, with Tav, we're kind of used to that from defenders, whereas it's not the norm at an awful lot of teams. Most teams have defenders who maybe weigh in with 1 or 2 a season, and that's it. It seems to be giving us a hell of a threat from set pieces. And the funny thing is that everybody used to like sneer at set pieces and things like that. Even in like the Premiership at the moment, they're absolutely key. They're the way teams are finding a way through and scoring goals. And if we've got him and potentially Trimidi rising above defences in there, then we've got a new weapon that we never had before. Because I can't remember, I mean, Connor Goldson used to weigh in with a goal or 2. But we haven't really, you know, had that sort of centre halves who get up and fire ones in. I know Hollander got a famous goal and what have you, and Nico Katic, but, you know, that wasn't the norm, rather than it wasn't one of 6 or 7. So if he can get 7 or 8 goals this season, great. And although he gives us the odd scary moment still, he does seem to be growing into the role a bit. And I think having an old head beside him, just walk him through games and talk him through games, I think he'll reap the benefit, and hopefully we've got a player there. Certainly a much better player than he would have been talking about had we been on this pod 3 months ago.
Oh my goodness, yeah. How much has changed in 3 months. It's do you know what? I think, Ryan, I've blocked out the majority of the Russell Martin era. I almost refuse to believe it ever happened. That 26% win ratio, that is up there with many a war crime I've ever seen ever. But yeah, no, definitely. We'll talk about obviously Fernandez we're talking about there. We'll talk about Suter, who kind of came back in last night, as Craig says, like a cool head, someone that can help him. Do you think that's the new partnership now, maybe Suter and Fernandez, Ryan?
I don't know. Suter, the two of them, the combination of Suter and Fernandez is going to bring you at least 1 or 2 bomb scare moments in every game. There was one at the end of the first half that Suter had, and he strolled out of defence like Lorenzo Amoruso used to stroll out of defence and passed it straight to the St Mirren player, and they actually almost kind of broke in and scored. And then he had another one right at the start of the second half, and I'm jumping up. You know, I said I wasn't jumping up and screaming at my players, but I remember actually doing that last night and jumping up, telling me to switch on and get his head in the game and stuff. So he still has that latch stage going on. But and again, there was one last night, he won a header, the ball broke to the words of the back post, and he's ran, and he's had a great slide tackle and stuff. So you've got to take the rough with this move with John Suter. But I think you're looking for something a wee bit more assured, something a bit more classy, like a Carlos Coelho, like a boom song player, a Davy Weir, you know, somebody that's just that wee bit slicker, that wee bit cooler, a bit more reliable, and next to Fernandez to try and help him do it. Like you were saying, like an older head. That's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. And whether that's part of a back 2 centre half or they maybe switch to a back 3, which we've seen did that last night, I'm not 100% convinced that would be as watertight as what it should be.
Yeah, no, definitely. Manny Maldini is a class. There we go. Love it. Actually, yeah, Fernandez, I was checking the goals there, and actually Fernandez is on the same amount of goals as Majowski, which, considering the amount of game time that Fernandez has had, he's only really had game time recently due to injuries and other things. But yeah, there we go. Right. Well, that was a good result. That second half, though, we did seem to drop off a little bit, didn't we, Craig? I thought, hopefully, you know, obviously we got the second goal, fantastic. It's very rare that you can kind of feel semi-comfortable watching Rangers, especially this time of year. And St Mirren get a penalty. Obviously, ball came into the box, and ball kind of hits off of Fernandez's arm as he's kind of moving his hands up. Sorry, I say his arm, it's his hand. Is that a penalty for you? Do we even know what a handball is anymore, to be honest? But is that a penalty for you?
I mean, for me, watching it, I wasn't even 100% sure the ball had hit his hand, whether it had come up off his leg or not. But I know we had that problem in the game before. I think it was Motherwell, was it, or Kilmarnock? And the whole world ended as a result of it. I think on balance, given the outcome, I think, well, we'll take that one, we'll move on, and we'll let it go. It didn't cause us any problems. One thing I would say, though, is that I just want one of those games where we get 2 or 3 up by half time and literally nothing happens in the second half whatsoever. I know we'd be wanting to go out and get 3, 4 more, but actually there's still too many, as Ryan said, bomb scares going on in every game that we win, whether it's late penalties or controversial moments where people think that people should have had one. I think on balance, it probably was a penalty. And I think it really split the view on the group chat last night. I think there was a sort of pretty much a 50-50 split on that. But if it's a 50-50 split, we tend to favour our own. So probably, reluctantly. Ryan might take a different view, though.
Yeah, Ryan, let's hear it.
Unfortunately, and I think we've ridden our luck a wee bit with VAR over the last few weeks. There was obviously the incident at Livingston that probably should have had a penalty kick. I think there was another one recently where I think the VAR's went in our favour. Like we always try and say, that these things will tend to balance themselves out. We don't like to promote things like conspiracy theories or patterns of was it patterns of assistance? Yes, patterns of assistance, stuff like that. But I'll ask you both guys, and this is something that's been kind of rolling about my head today. Has VAR improved or removed the enjoyment of live football? Because for me, I'm sitting in the stadium last night, and it's the game's enjoyable, the game's free flowing, everyone's getting, teams are going back and forth against each other, and all of a sudden this guy puts his hand in his ear and he starts putting his hand down, and everyone's to look at him for the next couple of minutes and look at me, and it just slows everything down, and there's no communication. They're starting to talk in the stadium now in England, which has made it a little bit better. But for me, as far as live football is concerned, it's ruining the enjoyment of it. And it's all these, you're kind of almost hesitant to celebrate goals. Raskins, for example, against Motherwell at the weekend. You're not allowed to anymore. That's the thing, because you've got at least 2 or 3 minutes for ratification or that moment where it gets chalked off. And, for example, the incident involving Suter that you were talking about at the start of the second half, where he got basically bullied off the ball. Now, I think it was poor from him, but I suspect VAR could have gone either way with that. Had a team, and I'm not talking about St Mirren last night, I'm talking about a team in any football match in England or Scotland, scored that goal after that incident, it could have gone either way. Sometimes it'll go with what the referee says on the pitch, and if he lets it go, that's fine. But I think anybody in the VAR room, if they wanted to find a foul there, they could have done no problem. That's not to say I thought it was, but that's not the point.
See, I think this is one of the big issues with VAR is not the technology, it's the implementation and the people behind it. And what one person classes as a handball, another person doesn't. And it's all about interpretation. Interpretation is the problem. For me, like Ryan said, we looked at that Livingston game. At that time, the Fernandez handball there, I was adamant that was a penalty. I was like, that's a penalty. It's hit off his hand. It's not going in the net. Yes, it looked like it hit his leg. First time he managed to find a kind of angle, it looked like it hit his leg, but then you see it from behind and it didn't, which I guess sometimes shows you kind of how some angles can look with certain things. It's the whole clear and obvious error thing is where I think the problem is. If the ref maybe doesn't think it's a penalty, then they'll go, well, if he doesn't think it's a penalty and there's only a slight possibility, then they'll probably go, you know what, it's not enough to overrule, it's not enough to get him to look at the monitor. And I think that's where some of the issue comes in. We are still trying to iron out what works best. I remember being at the Michael Beale 1-0 loss, Old Firm at Ibrox, where we'd started the season badly. This is all PTSD coming back. Perfect for New Year's Eve for everyone. But yeah, it was the game where we scored in the second minute offside.
Yeah.
Obviously, ball went straight. I think Matondo put it in the net, but you could see the crowd stopped cheering within about 4 seconds because the flag was up. You could see, yep, offside given. All right, whatever. The big problem is not necessarily because anytime the ball did go in the net for us, and blooming out went in about several times that day, despite us having no goals by the end of it, everybody still celebrated the ball hitting the net crazy, like you would. And even to the point where when, I can't even remember who the ref was that day, was it John Beaton? I can't remember. But when the ref did point to chop off the roof goal from the Lager Bielk incident with Dessers, which was farcical in complete honesty, even people thought that the ref pointed for goal because we all started celebrating again.
Yeah.
Oh, goal. But it wasn't. He'd given it as it's goal kick. Which was absolutely crazy because I think one of the big problems is when you're in that stadium sometimes you have no clue what's going on. Yes, they put the image up on the screen saying, oh, VAR check, but you don't really know what's going on at all. And it would be nice if they maybe put the image, what the ref's seeing, maybe up on the screen as well. That might help the fans a little bit. It's one of those, it is still a mess, and I think it's something that does obviously need ironing out, but the only way to iron out VAR and make VAR work properly, I think, is if things have to be more black and white. And the problem with handball is you'd have to make it very black and white. Like, has it hit your hand in the box? Yes, penalty. Has it not? No penalty. And I think that's the only way really to go with that. But then when you get somebody punting a ball into the box, somebody's arms round their sides, what can they do about it? And it just wouldn't be fair. It is a mess, and I don't think it's something that's going to be sorted anytime soon. But hats off, though, to Jack Butland, Ryan, for that penalty save. I know it was down the middle. It was a poor penalty from the St Mirren captain, and we have to be Fraser, wasn't it? Generally, you pick a corner, but I'm surprised he went down the middle. But that Jack Butland's turning into a bit of a penalty saving expert, isn't he?
Yeah, and that only puts pressure on the guy that's taking it. Obviously the pressure of being in Ibrox and the importance of the moment and the importance of the goal and stuff like that. The guy bottled it. It's as simple as that. He ran up with rubber knees and he scuffed it. And it was a very routine save for Butland. But, it's very much you're standing in the penalty spot, you look up. There's certain goalkeepers you would want to hit penalties against and certain goalkeepers you wouldn't want to hit penalties against. I think Jack Butland's now starting to get himself in the category you'd rather be hitting against somebody else. And he's there and, straight a bit, and again, straight to the VAR. They're all saying that he's jumped off his line. He's not jumped off his line. And they're all screaming and stuff like that. And then we're celebrating the fact that they've been given a corner. Because we're all thinking, Christ, they're going to pull this off. He's come off his line and stuff like that. VAR is far too much involved in football. It's there. And I'm sorry to bring a previous topic back up, but It just shows you how stupid things are getting where they're screaming, get the VAR, get the... No, the referee, the guy in the middle of the park's the guy who's refereeing the game. Let him referee the game. But yeah, I was like, you might look back at that moment later on in the season and say that was that was one of the kind of top 10 moments of the season, because had that goal went in at the time of the game that had gone in, obviously we did lose a goal at one bit there, but would we have crumbled? Would we have bottled it ourselves? The fact it was obviously what was going on in Motherwell at the time, would that information have then got to them at that side of the city and said, right, well, they've actually pulled the goal back and buoyed them up? And I don't know.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I totally agree. We all remember, Craig, speaking of VAR, the mess with was it the Napoli situation in the Champions League where how many times did that penalty get retaken with Alan McGregor? It was absolutely insane. And he saved 2 of them, didn't he? That was Alan McGregor for you. He just just saved it. Know what I mean? He's just so blasé about it as well. But yeah, VAR, it's one of these things, isn't it? But yeah, the St Mirren eventually did get a goal. Now, it wasn't exactly on the cards. I did see a few people on Twitter saying, oh, St Mirren deserve more out of the game, actually. I think on the balance of it, I think we were pretty dominant. And it was only the last kind of 10, 15 minutes that St Mirren managed to rack up some possession, because they were languishing around the 20% mark. They really were struggling. But Mandron got the kind of goal. Ball came in the box. I think James Tavernier obviously, Curry will jump in here, but obviously I think could have done better in that situation. There was an unmarked header, which I think was more frustrating. Straight on the goal, good save from Butland initially, couldn't gather it, and then Mandron kind of comes back in with a head and puts it into the net, which I was just so annoyed. I thought, great, we've got 10 minutes now to try and stave off a storm, because despite how better we have been playing, we still have those frailties, don't we, Craig? Especially when you could see there St Mirren didn't really have that many chances on goal, and they did manage to get one late on. So were you worried at this point?
Yes, very. And I felt the reason why I was most worried was because I felt the substitutions had changed the flow of the game significantly at that stage. Now, I'm not saying that they in themselves were bad substitutions. Just sometimes it works that way, where things don't quite come off and it sort of turns around. And I can't remember at the time they scored how many he'd made, but it seemed that our attacking intent had gone. And I'm sure Danilo was on the pitch, for example, by that stage. I could be wrong because I didn't make any notes watching the game last night. But certainly we didn't look like scoring again at that time. And I think that's the bit that's worrying. It's all very well bringing players on and shoring things up and changing the system to shore things up when you're 2-0 up. But if you concede and you've got no way of changing that back to get back up the pitch, you leave yourself vulnerable. And I think we got away with it a wee bit. I don't think there were too many scares after the goal, save for the fact that any one goal could have been absolutely disastrous. And so you kind of think that way. But that, for me, that was it. And also that goal was subject to a VAR check as well. I'm not quite sure what they were checking, but, you know, once again, they looked at it. And so St Mirren fans in the ground had to sit and wait for a minute or whatever it was until they actually got their chance. St Mirren fans who behaved pretty impeccably last night on the whole, I've got to say.
Yeah, no, definitely. And before we kind of move on to looking ahead to the Old Firm game, obviously they had the minute silence at the start, Ryan, which seemed it seemed to be impeccably observed until we did hear it seemed like a solo fan making some noise, but it was good to see that the St Mirren fans kind of seemed to be disgusted by that, and it literally seemed like they were sorting out that one fan, which I think was a teenage lad by the looks of it. Yeah, sad thing to see, but I'm sure he won't be doing that again, will he?
No, I'm sure he's living with the fear this morning. His face is all over social media, absolutely everywhere. Obviously, it only takes one idiot to ruin something like that, but it's been dealt with, and I tip my hat to the St Mirren fans that did deal with that, and they self-policed themselves impeccably to react to something like that. We obviously remember Dundee United sponsoring a minute silence after the Monarch had passed away. There was obviously an incident at St Mirren Park where they actually had a minute's applause for the Monarch and a minute's silence because a certain group of individuals can't control themselves during minute silences. So, but it was great to see the St Mirren fans reacting the way they did, and they dealt with it fantastically, and kudos to them, and thanks for doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it was good to see, wasn't it, Craig? That I know football, we have rivalry, but when it comes to people dying, it's just not acceptable, is it? And it was good to see the St Mirren fans kind of step up for what was right.
Completely, Andrew, and we take the fact that there's that 90 minutes rivalry and there's a football rivalry going on, but you've got to put human decency and the dignity of your club above that. And I think St Mirren fans did that last night because, as you say, if there's 2,000 people and one person shouts, that doesn't reflect on St Mirren fans. That reflects on that one individual. And I think the way they put it right made that very, very clear.
Yeah, no, definitely did. Right. We've ended the year with a win, which is fantastic considering the year we've had. And when you do look at the league table, it does make for some really interesting reading. So for the first time in a very long time, it's a non-Old Firm team at the top. Hearts currently on 41 points. We have Celtic in second on 38. We're on 35, which is absolutely unbelievable considering the season we've had after 19 games. Motherwell on 33 points as well. So, you know, Motherwell kind of in the mix. And you look at Hibs are 5th on 31, and I think it almost could be a top 5. It looks like the English Premiership a little bit. But yeah, no, it's amazing that we're back in a title race, and this is the perfect point to bring on a substitution to add to the team. It is Jock. How you doing, mate? Happy New Year's Eve. Happy Hogmanay, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and same to yourself, and same to everybody on the podcast.
Good to see you, mate. And
Hi, Jock.
We were just talking the win there over St Mirren, and we're just moving on now to the game at the weekend. A small affair over at the east end of the city, where we take on that lot in the New Year's Old Firm derby. And it's not the Glasgow derby, despite what some say, because that was the Rangers Queen's Park derby before they even existed, so they can't claim that one. But Jock, are you looking forward to the weekend's game?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't think no matter what anybody says, there's always that wee sort of itch in the back of your head, isn't there? That's just there, no matter what kind of rotten form your team's in. When it comes to an Old Firm game, you just never really know, and there's always a narrative spun that there's one team's favourite, and one team's the underdogs. But when it comes down to it, it's 90 minutes. It's two teams battling it out for 90 minutes, and any team can come away the victor. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've got that wee bit of buzz back again that I had, as I would have said before our last upset. So that's back again. So definitely looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, do you know what? I am really looking forward to this. I'm just a bit gutted it's on the 3rd, just because the way things have fallen this year. It's one of those, but I'll be down at the London branch to watch that, definitely. But Ryan, can you believe we're in this situation now? Obviously, I went through the league table there. We are obviously still sitting 3rd, which, you know, you possibly could have predicted earlier on in the season, but only now being 3 points behind that lot, that is something, isn't it?
It just goes to show how poor they've been as well. We've obviously had our problems and our issues that we'll seem to be now getting over, but thank goodness that they've been probably equally as poor. They're going through a torrid time at this. You know, there are only 2 results that they've had under the new manager. They've managed to beat Aberdeen 3-1 with 2 goals in the last 5 minutes against a 10-man Aberdeen who also aren't doing particularly great this season. They've had a bit of a chaotic game against a team in Livingston who are really, really poor. You know, they're certainly going to be relegated this season. And then they've went to Motherwell. They've lost there. They are very much, we are catching them at a very good time. You know, we're up in the upward trajectory. Their confidence is probably in some sort of overdraft at this moment in time. So we have to take full advantage of this. Us go for the throat. And I think that I did say, you know, as much as Dan Rose deserved a lot of credit for what he's done, I wasn't impressed with some of his team selection, in particular the Cup semi-final. I thought we missed a real trick to actually get them at the Cup semi at Hampden, and I hope that it doesn't repeat that. We have to get Gassama on top of Anthony Ralston. That is the weakest point of their team. We need to make sure that we get there, and we need to make sure that we stop Callum McGregor, and we need to nullify Maeda. We need to make sure that he doesn't get his tail up and he doesn't get interested. We need to make sure that he's dealt with McGregor and get on top of Ralston, and I think that's the key victory against them.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's look at it then. So, you know, we were kind of chatting in the WhatsApp group earlier, Craig. We were talking about that Celtic back line. I think it was Jock that kind of mentioned about, you know, getting at the back line. And, you know, it's something that's annoyed me for about 3 seasons, because whenever you've seen their back line under pressure, they really do struggle. They really do give the ball away. They really struggle with it. Now they're in a worse situation with their defence, and what really annoys me is we've never really just put a bit of pressure on, and sometimes when we do put a bit of pressure on, we're already 2-0 down and it's a little bit too late. We do pull one back, but it's something we probably should have done in the first 10-15 minutes. How would you approach this game on Saturday, Craig? Are you looking at kind of attacking them straight away, look at their weak links, which, got to be honest now, I know we're not amazing in any way, shape or form, but you look at their back line and it's doable, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think, unfortunately, the place where we probably have less in terms of, what we had maybe even last year is that central striker to get in amongst them. It'll take a big performance from Trimidi. We've had one. Is it too much to ask for 2 in a week, or has he turned the corner? We don't know. And I don't think we can go into it confident that we have a player up front who can do what you've said that we need to do. However, I do think we have players in midfield who can get forward and burst through if they're protected and given that opportunity. And I think if we can get on top of them in midfield, then I think there's a real chance. So I feel confident. I also feel that from set pieces we'll have a chance. And of course, we scored a cracking goal against them at Ibrox in the first game, which was slightly offside. But again, that showed that vulnerability of players having the ability. It was John Suter, I think, wasn't it, that got his head on that one. And we can do that. And I think from set pieces now, they're obviously doing some work on it because we've scored goals from that position. Fernandez, Suter could be the guys who make the difference. It's awful that I'm not saying the centre forward, but I hope you get where I mean from that.
Yeah, no, I definitely get where you're coming from, Craig. No, and I do agree. Scott Fry is coming from Lincoln City, and set us up fairly well when it does come to set pieces. It seems, as Shona said there in the comments, that Celtic are very vulnerable at set pieces at the minute, so it could be the perfect storm for us. However, I would say our goals were generally coming from set pieces this season. I think when I was looking over our early games, which, don't get me wrong, were dire, I think a lot of our goals, because our strikers weren't really there, were coming from corners. We were getting headers from corners. We scored a few of those, which was a bit unlike us. But Jock, is that the key this weekend? Set pieces, could that win us the game?
It can be, as you were chatting about in the podcast earlier. Set pieces. Craig had talked about goals from Katic. Shooters rocked up with a set piece goal against them. So had what's it, Dutch Proper as well last year. So they are susceptible, and if we can mix up the variety of deliveries into the box and use them like we have done over the last couple of weeks since this new guys come in, certainly it's going to help us in good stead. Last night again, Asgard's goal was a well worked set piece goal. Fernandez obviously has that in his locker. We've seen that this season. It's just, I think set pieces on our side, we all seem against them. We seem to be a bit susceptible to them. And obviously Butland had that sort of error last night as well that led to the goal. But again, that was our own downfall because we're trying to pass out from the back and that could have been easily dealt with, and they didn't need to have a corner that led to the goal anyway. So I do think there's plenty of scope there. But as we're looking at the comments, as Shona says, that they play a high line. Look at the pace we have in that team now. There was a moment last night where Gassama burst to the halfway line, nearly ran through and had a good chance. Mm-hmm. We need to use that pace and get in behind them and stretch them as best we can, because that'll be one of our biggest assets at the weekend, certainly.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with you there, Jock. In recent kind of seasons, Ryan, it's all been about nullify Hatate, to stop the speed, obviously from Maeda, and, keep Callum McGregor quiet. Is it as simple as that going into this one, or do you think that you could actually potentially just not necessarily go gung-ho, but actually just put a bit of pressure on them? You don't maybe have to be as tactically rigid.
I think there's an element of fluid that you can present to it. You've obviously got, I think that, particularly the Cup semi-final I was alluding to, but I thought he picked the wrong team. I thought the team was too defensive on the day. I thought he could have really pushed a lot more up and had a bit more of a go. Because obviously it is a cup game. There's no repercussions. It's a win or lose scenario on it, and you don't necessarily need to go defensive. Losing Asgard on the day obviously didn't help and stuff, but I did think there was an opportunity there for us to have a go. And I'd like to see us have that. I mean, I'll give you my team right now if you like. I mean, Butland, I'd play a back three, a centre half. I would go either Sterling or Tav of one of the two, but I'd play Tav or Sterling at the right hand side. Fernandez, Suter, Makoma. I'd have Barron and Raskin in the middle of the park, patrolling, make sure that we're picking up balls from the defence and driving into the midfield. I'd have Asgard, I'd have Gassama, I'd have Mikey Moore as a top three behind Chermiti, and I would ask the three of them to be very fluid, chopping and changing. Gassama starts to the left, but makes his way over to the right, Moore in the middle, Asgard moves out to the left, out to the right, and just keep them guessing, keep moving and drive at them. And I think that's the key. I think that's there, and I think having the back three will offer us help when we're under pressure, because we all have difficult moments in the game. We are going to the home of our biggest rivals, ultimately who are the champions at this moment in time. So we will come under pressure, we'll come under difficult moments that we will have to deal with, and having 3 centre-halves will help, and it's ultimately could be interpreted as a back 5 as well. Raskin and Barron will have lots of legs in the middle of the park to deal with the likes of Hatate, McGregor that you're speaking about, but the key is getting at their defence, and if you've got an Asgard who's on the upward trajectory, Moore's on form, Gisama's showing glimpses again. He's had a great shot against Motherwell, which was tapped in for a rebound. We need more of that from him. And Jermaitis had his best game in the Rangers shirt last night. So I think that's the team. If it was me, if I was going to be picking it, I certainly don't want to see like Diamandi in the team. I think the game was a wee bit guilty of passing him by on occasion. And I think the way that he's off the boil at this moment in time, I think it just might be a wee bit too much for him on Saturday. So see where we go.
See where we go, yeah, definitely. Craig, there's been a lot of chat about James Tavernier. Obviously, he did have an illness a few weeks ago and seemed to kind of come back a little better from that, but then last couple of games kind of has dropped off a little bit. Do you start James Tavernier on Saturday?
I think you do, yes. It may be the last year that Tavernier plays in games like this, but yeah, I think he has to play. I think the difference is last season they were a much better side and a team that was playing with confidence and really getting at us. And I think they were able to exploit that. Whereas I think we kind of need his know-how. And there's always that chance he's going to pitch up with one as well, which has that. But I think this idea of 3 at the back means you can compensate with the wing backs as well and probably leave him less exposed to a speedy winger. And I know Maeda's had a lot of change out of him over the last couple of years, but yeah, I would start him.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. He's the captain, and I think when you look at it, Jock, if things aren't really working out for Tav, if things start getting a bit difficult, we can always kind of bring Sterling on in that kind of right back berth, can't we? Would you start Tav at the weekend, Jock?
Yeah, I would, because Tav's, he's been the captain for how many Old Firm games now? He's got the experience. And more often than not, his best games or his biggest contributions come in Old Firm games. He's done well at Parkhead individually as a player. Granted, maybe not the result, but as a player and goal contributions, free kicks, penalties, he's done well. So who else do you want, for experience in that team? It's going to be him, isn't it? And like you say, he's always got that in his locker, whether it be a cross or a good through ball or just something that can help us offensively. We can sit and talk to our blue in the face about his defensive side, but he's at that, as Craig says now, this probably could be his last run and his last chance at, second last chance at Parkhead. Really, I would give it to him. 100%, I would give it to him and just see how he gets on. Like you say, we've got options there in that position now, which is a bit of a luxury. You've got Arns there. You can bring on Sterling as well. Both won't give you that offensive side, but depending on what kind of stage the game's at as well, if we need to do a bit of game management as well, we can say Tav fanboy. At the end of the day, it still harks back down to stats and statistics for the guy, and for me, it's all in favour right now. He's at the stage of his career now where this probably will be his last season. It should be his last season. And hopefully it goes out in a high.
Yeah, no, definitely. It'd be really nice to go out in a high, wouldn't it? Ryan, you want to come in there, mate?
Yeah, I think there's a requirement to play a right side of the centre half, obviously part of the back 3 that I'm mentioning, and a right back. I think there's a requirement to play 2 guys on that side of the park because that's Celtic's strongest side of the park. They will probably play Maeda out on the left-hand side, and Kieran Tierney obviously is quite keen to get forward and get crosses in and stuff, so I think there's a requirement to be cautious on that side of the park because it's their strongest side and it's probably where their biggest output's going to come from. And we need to decide we've got 3 guys that are going to play there. We've got Aarons, we've got Tav, we've got Sterling. So if you're going to pick 2 of the 3 of them, Aarons misses out every single time. And Tav's in there, yes, the legs have gone and yes, there's mistakes and stuff like that. But there's more good in Tav than there. And also, if we happen to get a penalty on Saturday, we've not had a penalty at Parkhead in about 20 odd years, so that's got to come to an end at some point. there's only one guy in the park you want to be taking it for, is a captain.
A penalty at Parkhead. I thought I was the one drinking, mate. I've just finished that as well, my Julian Speroni. So, what's it been, 24 years? Absolutely unbelievable. But, yeah, so that's the thing. You know, we're looking obviously at Celtic. We're looking ahead to the Old Firm game. You can't help but look at their form, Craig. They've lost 5 and 7, is it? I'm just thinking this off the top of my head now. A trouncing loss in a sense at Motherwell. I was speaking with Ryan off air on Monday night after the pod had finished, and I said, you know, it'd be worthwhile putting money on Motherwell to beat Celtic, just because some of their play against us was very decent. They were very good moving as a unit, and some of their passing was very good and slick, and you could just see that, you know what, if they could put a bit of pressure on them, you could tell that if Motherwell took the lead, that they would see it out. It just felt that way. Now, obviously, I didn't see the Motherwell game. I watched some highlights this morning, you know, with my breakfast, because it was I needed some entertainment. And looking at that second goal, Craig, my goodness. You can see that's coming tactically. They want to play from the back. Are they going to do that at the weekend, do you think?
I think, well, the problem that we've got is the guy who's coaching them is a completely unknown quantity. And I suspect in years gone by with Rodgers and O'Neill and people like that, they would have clamped down on that immediately, seen the problem and done it. Is it part of I mean, I don't really watch an awful lot of their games, so I don't know. But is this a way he's trying to make them play? And we've all suffered as a result of this philosophy manager thing, you know, where we can see it, but he can't, and he's telling them what to do. Who knows? But I think Danny Roll and the analytics team will be all over that sort of thing. And I would hope that we have a plan to exploit that if it happens.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, it's mad to see kind of the philosophy management after we've seen the kind of worst of it under Russell Martin. It seems like they've got a clone of him, Jock, which actually seems to be worse, because let's not forget, despite Russell Martin's atrocious 26% win rate, and the only redeeming quality was his lovely hair, but they don't draw games. They just lose them, don't they, Jock? This has got to be one of their worst managers of all time. I can't really see, don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert on all things them, but it's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're going, you have to really go back. And I think another manager in my lifetime I can think of was probably John Barnes. You know, he didn't get much time at all, and I basically sort of, I don't know if it was a similar start, but maybe I don't even think it was as bad as this one, and he got the boot back then. But yeah, it's Scottish football this season is just not nuts, because how often does two Old Firm teams have two absolute stinkers of managers come in the space of a season, let alone the space of 4 months of the season? And I was looking at the table there after the game last night and seeing that we had 8 draws. 8 draws already. 8 draws is usually your whole season. 8 draws, and that's a bad season of draws. So, and you look at games, especially the games we're drawing at Ibrox, you're like, oh, could we not just turn them into points? We'd be laughing right now, considering the situation we're in. But hopefully, those draws might towards the latter end of the season might actually be good draws, considering the state that obviously they're in, the state we have been in, and we're now hopefully coming out of. And then it's just all attention turns upwards after Saturday, doesn't it? Provided the result goes well.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I'm trying to think of a comparison of a time when it was like this, and the closest I can think of is the time when they were under Strachan, when they had their team was really running into the ground, but we just were not good enough. And they were good at kind of the 1-0 wins, the 2-1 wins, and I think even they beat Motherwell like 4-3 or something. They were conceding goals all over the place, but they were consistent. And what done us was the Old Firms. You know, they were better in those games, which kind of gave them the advantage, and then we dropped off dramatically when we knew we weren't getting there. Yeah. That's kind of the closest I could see where a poor Celtic side has won the title But yeah, this is just an insane scenario because, like, as I was saying earlier, you look at that table and Hibernian, who are sitting 5th, are 10 points behind Hearts, which, granted, you'd have to have Hibs winning all their games coming up, but still, it's not impossible, is it? They could kind of sneak up a little bit more. 3 points, being 3 points behind Celtic at the minute, when we have, I think at one point, Ryan, been 12 points behind, is unbelievable. We were conceding, a lot of us were conceding the title in September, weren't we?
Yeah, I was shocked how bad it was. I was tearing my eyes out, and it just to the extent I actually didn't go to a game, which for anyone who knows me well is like, against my religion. It's not to go to Ibrox and watch Rangers play. I very, very rarely miss games, and for me to be sitting in the house refusing to go because of the current situation is very unusual, and it just felt alien to me. So it's great. I mean, you've got to give credit to the American owners. They've come in, they've realised that there's things aren't quite right, and they've wiped the slate clean, and they're willing to start again. They need to get the checkbook out. They need to back this guy, because he's playing at this moment in time with limited resources. So if they can actually go out and now back him financially, in my opinion, the team who has the best recruitment, best player in recruitment in January will be the team that will win the league. If Hearts recruit well and they add to what they've already got, they're obviously doing quite well. So if they add to what we've got, they've got a potential to go on. And just because we're obviously talking about, pulling level with Celtic tomorrow, 1 point. Hearts are the team to catch. We shouldn't really be that concerned about pulling level with Celtic. We should be concerned about how we're going to catch Hearts, because Hearts are the team at the top of the league. So we've got to make sure that we, first of all, leapfrog Celtic, get past them. They're not in a good place. Fine, just run past them. But then how do we catch Hearts? What do we need to do? What players do we need that are actually going to get us there to claw back the lead that they've gained over us? Because they've beaten us twice this season. We've got to come to Ibrox, and then we've got to go to Tynecastle after the split, which will be a blockbuster game. That'll be absolutely massive for us. So they are the team to catch, and we've got to make sure that we financially, just flex our muscles, because they won't have the financial resources that we've got. We've just got to go out and sign bigger and better players that are going to stand, go with the test of time and go for it. So, but that's the team that, and as much as Celtic have got financial firepower as well, they could go out and sign half a dozen really good players. Talk about the boy Evan Ferguson coming from Brighton, I think he's on loan at Roma, possibly going to, he would be a good signing for them. So we've just got to make sure that we do better business than everyone else.
That's it, isn't it, Craig? This all really hinges on the January transfer window. You see Hearts have already kind of, through, Tony Bloom's analytics, Jonestown analytics, they've already got some kind of people lined up. They're not going to be spending a lot of money, but as they've proven already, you don't really need to spend a lot of money. They've earned their position at the top of the table right now, and rightly so. It is the worst window to purchase players. I remember doing a pod on the Ibrox channel on the January transfer window, the window closing. We were doing it live from a pub, and Aaron Ramsey was signing, and I thought, do you know what? That is a great signing. He'll do us wonders. It is the worst window, isn't it? It's how do you get the gems from a lot of the kind of, and I don't want to use the word rubbish because it's not professional footballers here, but how do you find the gems within that in the January window? Because it's not easy, is it?
Well, I think to give a bit of comfort for me, it's the fact that we have a better chance of making something with the players that we bring in, because we seem to have a settled environment again, an environment that's welcoming and nurturing and looks to be getting the best out of the players who arrive. If we'd bought peak Messi and Ronaldo under Russell Martin, I don't think it would have improved the team. I think that the problems that we had were above that and too much. I think there's other teams in the SPFL at the minute who are probably in the position we were in then. And I don't think it's going to be as easy as just bringing in players. I think you've got to make sure you get those signings right. Hearts haven't had a crisis yet either. All these guys who they've sold for, or they've bought for 20 grand here, 30 grand there, whatever. When the pressure really gets ramped up, we'll see what they're made of and what they can do. But I think we've got a chance here. I think we need 3 or 4 good acquisitions. They don't have to be amazing acquisitions, but a couple of them maybe players that the manager knows and understands. and can implement his system and sell it to the rest, I think we've got a chance. That might change completely after Saturday.
Yeah, no, it is always possible. It is always possible. You never know. But then, you know what? Even if let's say we lose on Saturday, we're 6 points behind. It's not impossible. It is, though. You look at the Hearts where they are in the league, and granted, you're probably thinking, you know what? They're probably more easy to catch, but we're basing this on what they've done before, and obviously, you know, you can't guarantee that. It's if what's buts and maybes, isn't it? But it's going into this. You look at recruitment, you look at things. The one thing that I've looked at is one thing that's always failed Rangers, Chalk, has been the psychology side of things, the mentality. Obviously, something that Russell Martin harked on a lot about under his reign, but it's something that's kind of been there. When there's an opportunity, right, if you do this, you can go top. If you do this, you can do that. And we've never really done it. The one thing that I've noticed now from the other end of the city, anytime they've had an opportunity to overtake Hearts or go level with them, every single time they've actually blown it, which I think is huge. Do you think there's some psychology there cropping in at the other end of the city? It's not just us this time?
Yeah, I think so. It's part and parcel of the pressure playing for either side of the old firm, particularly when it gets tight and down to the wire like this. All it takes is one mistake in a game, and that's it. You know, the fans will quite understandably pile on top of you and put the blame on you, and that can spread through a team. And we've seen it over the years. We've had chances to claw back, and I remember there was one point where we're sitting 5 points clear, Brendan Rodgers Celtic, and we still managed to throw that in the bin. So it can be done. It can be done. It's interesting that it's as you say, it's Hearts. They've had chances to leapfrog Hearts. They've not been able to do that, whereas traditionally it's been us. So another team in the mix, I think, can only be a good thing, really, from the average punter's viewpoint, and I think probably the bean counters at Scottish football headquarters will be like, this is great for us because we might actually have a three-way horse race going into the split, which we haven't had since when's the last time Rangers and Celtic and Hearts were fighting out for a title? Probably when Hearts ran Celtic close under, was it George Burley? You're going even back further than that, because Rangers were probably still in with a shout at that one, whereas I think we were well and truly out of the season that the Burley was there. So yeah, I mean, it's just part and parcel. When it gets down to the crunch time, something we've always not managed to do is see games over the line, games where we've got a chance, and something they slip up. We never ever seem to take advantage of it. We always seem to throw it away or let it slip through our fingers. It's good to see the other side, the city, starting to feel that pressure and make those kind of mistakes as well. And long may it continue.
Long may it continue indeed. Well, I can see now outside it's the last light of 2025, so I think that is the perfect time to start wrapping up. I know you've all probably got some New Year's Eve plans, and we'll be definitely doing some celebrating through the night, out with the old, in with the new. One thing I will say before you go, obviously Declan was in the comments earlier. If you are on Twitter, have a look at Declan's Twitter from last night. He's done some clipping of some pods, and it was just brilliant. Some great takes there, so do hope you're doing well, Declan. But yeah, do check that out. But yeah, so Ryan, I'm not quite going to go for a prediction from everyone, because it's probably a little bit too soon for that. But are you confident we'll win this at the weekend, Ryan?
Yes, I have to be. Yeah, I think we're catching them at a good moment. I think we're in a good moment ourselves as well. Chips are down. It's time to play.
Chips are down, time to play, man. Oh, you should be in that dressing room on the third, mate. But thanks for coming on, mate, and it's good to see you as always. Hope you have a good New Year's.
100%.
Craig, are we doing this on the third? Or are we going to go to Parkhead and get all 3 points?
I certainly hope so. And if they're as excited about it as a team as I am, I think we've got a chance. I wish it was at Ibrox, but no. I think it's one to look forward to, one to get excited about, and I think we haven't done enough of that recently.
Yeah, no, definitely. And thank you for coming on, Craig. Hope you have a good Hogmanay, my friend.
Cheers, Andrew.
And Jock, last but not least, before I give my kind of prediction, well, I say prediction, it's not quite a prediction. Are we doing this on Saturday? Are you confident the Rangers will go to Parkhead and get something?
It's the most confident I've been going to Parkhead, I would say, in a long time. That's for sure. Everything is pointing in our direction right now. But like I say, it's an old firm. It's 90 minutes. Anything can happen. It's not, as Craig says, I love it to be at Ibrox because I think obviously you go in their favour there. I think if we can put a performance and stay solid, and we can see what we've seen last night from Asgard and Trimiti and Fernandez, all them guys, if they can all string it together for 90 minutes, I think we'll come away happy, and then it sets us up for the January window and the rest of the incoming fixtures for the month. Definitely do.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on, mate. Happy Hogmanay to yourself, pal.
You too, lads. You too, everybody in the chat and comments as well. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Jock. Cheers, Brian.
Good stuff, good stuff. Now, I'm very confident, and I'm not that guy. I'm always nervous. I'll go through the motions when the day comes. I'll not be confident, and I will be confident. But seeing a lot of the chat from the other side of the city, they are worried. And it would not surprise me if a lot actually don't go to the game. And that's mad to say, because they are obviously in front of us still at the minute. They're not, in theory, they're not in the worst situation. You know, you'd rather have the points on the board, wouldn't you? But they are foreseeing a loss, and I think that they know deep down that this is the worst situation they've been in, and it's not changing anytime soon. For me, it's the best time to play them. We have finally turned a little bit of a corner. It's taken a long time. Danny Rule's, tried to do a lot with what he's working with, and I think now we're starting to see that come to fruition. You never know. It's probably unlikely, but if we can bring someone in on the first, that'd be good. Whether you start them in an Old Firm game is another thing. But I'm pretty confident, I would say. Can we do it though? Well, you know what? I look at even Russell Martin got a draw against them when they were playing a little better. Under Martin O'Neill, we drew in 90 minutes with 10 men for the majority of the game. Granted, in extra time, we did come apart, but that's understandable because, you got 10 men. And when you're going into extra time in an Old Firm game, it's probably not going to happen for you. So I can't remember the last time they beat us in 90 minutes, being completely honest. It must be going back maybe a year, 2 years. And it's very strange territory to be in. But we'll say to everyone, I'll be raising the glass tonight. There was a nice comment earlier from Up the Dale, Down the Dale. Happy New Year to all the Rangers Journal and all Rangers fans everywhere. Have a great 2026, and hope 56 arrives in May. I'd love that to be the case. Also, raise a glass for absent friends, 66 slander, and I do agree. Obviously, this time of year, we do start reflecting, obviously, what happened on the 2nd of January. So I will be raising a whiskey tonight at midnight to absent friends, and I'm sure you all be will as well. I'd just like to take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy and healthy 2026. We've ended the season on a high. As D. Ream once said, things can only get better, and I do believe that, and I'm looking forward to the third. I'm going down to the London branch, so if anyone's down in London at the London branch, hopefully I'll see you there. Every night's a Rangers Journal night. Happy Hogmanay, and we'll see you in 2026. Take care all. Cheery bye.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.